Good morning. This video is going to be a little different for me. Normally I do pinball videos or programming videos for microprocessors. Today I'm going to be talking about using some freeware to process a bunch of images that all have to be processed but are all a little different. I belong to the Pocosin Exchange Club, and for the last 12 years our club has hosted a golf tournament at Sleepy Hole Golf Course in Suffolk. It's right on the water. It's a beautiful place. And we host this golf tournament to raise money for all of the projects that we do in Pocosin. So every year we host this tournament. We sell, like most people who raise money with golf tournaments, we sell all sorts of raffle tickets and stuff like that. And one of the things we do is ask for people to sponsor holes. Each hole sponsor costs $100, and you get to put a sign out on a specific hole to show that you are the sponsor of that hole. The sponsorship signs look something like this. And to thank the people who do sponsor a hole, we like to send them a thank you card every year with a picture of their sign and a little reminder that they supported our club this year. We have a photo printer that we use for another event with pictures with Santa, so we can produce 4x6 photos quite easily and quite inexpensively. So what we do is we take a picture of each of these signs, and then we put together a little thank you card, print it out on photo paper, and mail it to them along with a thank you letter. So when we take these pictures, the signs will look something like this. They are a little askew. No matter how much you try to get square onto the sign, it's always going to be a little off, a little tilted, a little keystone. There's just no way that you can take a good picture. So in order to use a sign like this in a thank you card, the first thing you need to do is square it up so that it's a perfect rectangle, crop it out of its background, and then place it on top of the thank you card. Now you got to do this for over 50 or 60 signs, so that's a lot of physical work. So what I'm going to show you today is how I use two free pieces of software: Gimp, which is a photo editing tool, a lot like Photoshop, and Faststone Image Viewer, which is a free image viewer that also has a lot of batch conversion tools in it. And it's those batch conversion tools that I'm going to be using to help process these images. So let me show you how I take all of these images and process them into rectangular form. I think that's called orthorectification, but I'm not exactly sure of that. But I'm going to use that term. So we orthorectify the image of the sign to make it a perfect rectangle using Gimp. And then we take the Faststone image viewer and we scale all those images to the same size. And then we use Gimp again to composite that along with our thank you background. So this is the thank you background. I use the same background every year. I just change the date on it. And then I place the picture of each of the signs in front of this background, and then I print it out. So it's a pretty simple process, but it's a process of the orthorectification and the sizing that make this little tutorial kind of important. To do the rectification and cropping of the images, I start by grabbing an image, and I'm just going to grab one at random that looks like it needs a lot of work, and I'm dragging it into Gimp. Now here you see an image that is askew. It's not really quite square, so it needs to be fixed up. So the first thing I do is go up to the ruler bar up at the top and left click and drag down a ruler, and I place it on the highest corner uh, of the image that I want to work on. And then I grab another ruler and I drop it down to the bottom corner. And I go to the left and grab a vertical ruler and I place it on the left-handmost peak, and I place one on the right-handmost peak. Now, this defines a rectangle, and I'm going to reshape this image into this rectangle. Now, just for clarity, this does not keep the exact proportions of the sign, but for these signs, a little bit of stretching in one direction or another doesn't make any difference. So then I use a tool called the handle transform tool, excuse me, in Gimp. And if you look over here in the left panel, it's the one that has three like little circles. So I click on that, and I can come down to my image and I can grab a corner. I left click, it puts a circle there, and then I drag it up and latch it onto one of those cross sections of those guides. And then I go pick another corner and I grab it and drop it there. I go down and I grab the third corner, get it there. And by the way, you can zoom in on these if you want. I grab the fourth corner, drop it there. And now you can see the image is squared up. The background goes all to cattywampus, but that doesn't make any difference because we're not going to be using that anyway. And then you just hit the transform tool and it does the high resolution transform of that image. So now that I've got it transformed and it's nice and square, all I need to do is crop it. And the crop tool on my menu sits, these menus are completely adjustable, so it may be different on yours. But my crop tool is right here, and I can click down now. The first handle of the crop tool does not snap for some reason, but once I click down and start dragging, the second handle, you can see it snaps to the guides. And when you come up here, you can grab the top handle and snap it to the other guide. And then you just hit enter and your image has been cropped to that size. And it's nice and square. And then I just do a file export as, and that changes it into a JPEG file. And I pick the place where I want to save it, which is in signs cropped. And I export it and it says, do I want to replace it? Because I've done all of these already. And it replaces it. It sets the resolution. It defaults to the resolution that the image was when you put it in. So you can just say export. You don't need to change that resolution. And now you have a sign that's been orthorectified. And you just step through each of these. It only takes a couple of seconds each to rectify it, crop it, and save it out. So when you get done, you will have a whole directory of signs that have been rectified and cropped. So if I step through each of these now, you can see that they're all fairly square and they're all, they all look good. Now on this screen, these things look perfect because it's being expanded to fill the whole screen. But in actuality, all of these images are a slightly different size. So the next thing I need to do is make them all the same size. By the way, my default viewer for images is the Fastone image viewer. So when I double click on an image, it brings it up in full screen mode and lets you see what the image is going to look like. But if I right click and say switch to browser view, now you can see all the images in a browser view. And if you look down under here, and maybe I can zoom in on this, you can see that like this image is 2893 by 2189. This one is 3152 by 3 or 2233. Anyway, each image is unique, and that's not going to look good on my background. I need them all to be roughly the same size. So what I'm going to do is two things. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to make it 300 dpi, and that's because I have a 300 dpi printer and my background image is 300 dpi, so I want those two to match. And then I'm going to make all of the images 2 inches tall, and the Faststone image viewer has a converter that will do that in one step. So under Tools, you can go to Batch Convert, and you can pick the images you want to convert. I just do Add All. There's one image in here already, so it's asking me if I want to overwrite that, and I say yes. And so now I have all of the images in my Faststone image viewer ready to convert. And I have down here, I've checked an output folder where I want this to go, but let me go ahead and browse, because that's the actual real folder, and I want to put it in the resized folder here. Okay, so now I've selected where I want it to output, and I'll click on these advanced options for resize, so you can see that I'm setting it to a height of 600 pixels. Okay, remember I said I'm making this 300 dpi, so 300 pixels per inch, 600 pixels would be 2 inches, and under the DPI tag I've set it to be 300 by 300. So it's going to convert the image to 300 by 300 pixels and then scale it to 600 pixels high. And I hit OK, and I hit Convert, and that quick, it steps through and converts every one of those images to the same size. And this is in real time. Okay, so now that we're done, I can close the, well, actually, let me go to the resized thing. And you can see here that the signs are going to be different widths, but their heights is all 600, 600, 600, 600. So they're all now the same height. So I'm done with the Fastone image viewer, and I can close that down. Now I have Gimp opened again, and I have opened my background image file, and this is a Gimp image. I forget what the file extension is, XCF. So this is an XCF file, and it is stored with layers, a lot like an Adobe PDF image would be. And in this baseline background image that I have, I've got two folders. So I've got one folder that has the background image in it, and I have another folder that will hold all of the sign images. So I have that folder selected, and I'm going to input all of those sized images at one time by using a command over in the File menu, upper left here. It says File, Open as Layer. And so this is going to open each image as a separate layer, and then I go find where I have those images. So it's in golf tournament video. This is the one I'm working on right now, resized. And I select all by selecting the top one, scanning down to the bottom one, and doing a shift click, and that selects them all. And I say open. And you can see over here on the right, those images are rolling in one at a time. It takes a couple of minutes for, or a minute. It takes a minute to load in the 50-odd images that I need to produce. So we'll wait for that to finish. It's really not that long. Okay, all of those images have been loaded in, and you can see that they are now sitting here in the middle of the screen. However, the middle of the screen is not where I want these images. I want them down here, on the left-hand side and in the bottom 2/3 of the image. Now, initially I thought I could just grab the whole group and grab the move tool and click here and move it. But you see that only moves the top image. It doesn't move all of them. So I learned a little secret. It's not a secret. I learned a little trick. What you can do is there's a lock link over here. If you look on the bottom right of the thing, each layer has a little lock, and by locking this, and I don't know what this is called, but it locks the relationship of all of the images together. So you just have to quickly step down and click that lock on for each of those images. Unfortunately, there's no way to mass select all of the layers and click it on. It's one of the things that Gimp doesn't allow in their layering routines is mass processing. So you just have to click them down one at a time, but it doesn't take that long. And there you go. So now I have all of those images locked together. Now I can grab the move tool, click on this, and they will all move down together. And so with that, the images are almost ready to start printing, but as you can see the wider images behind the narrower images. So what we need to do now, and I start from the bottom and I click on the eyeball, which will hide that particular layer. And again, you have to do these one at a time because there's no group select. But I just step on back up. And hide all of the images except for one. And now I have one image showing, and this image is ready to print out. Now, unfortunately, my photo printer is not hooked up, so I'm going to just print these out to one of my other printers. But I just go File, Print. Print menu pops up. I pick the printer I want to go to. I say Print. And that image is printed. And now to process the next image, I just hide the image I just printed, turn on the next one, and I do File, Print. Again, because my photo printer is default, I have to select the one that actually has paper in it and is online, and I print it again. And I just step through each of them. Now, there's probably a way to script this. Gimp does allow scripting. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I don't know if it's worth the time because I can step through all of these and print them off in 10 minutes or so. It's just not all that much work. So I probably never will get around to figuring out how to script it. But let me go grab those pictures off of the printer and I'll show you what they look like. Well, here are the images that were printed out. Again, they're on plain photo paper, not, they're on plain paper, not photo paper, but as you can see, the images printed out nice and clear. They look really good, and when they're printed on photo paper, they look spectacular. And we print one of these out for each sign. We deliver them to the patrons along with a thank you letter for their support, and we do this every year. So as I said a little earlier, I could probably script this to make it look a little, to make it work a little faster, but from beginning to end, an hour or two of time in the afternoon, and I can process all of these images. I can rectify everything. I can print them all out. Loading the printer and stuff takes time, but it's not that much work. So I don't think I'll probably ever go any further than this, because these tools let me process this stuff really efficiently, and I'm quite happy with that. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching, and to be perfectly frank, I mostly did this video so next year I can remember how I did it. I'll watch the video and say, oh yeah, that's what I did. So anyway, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If there's anything you didn't understand in my poor explanations, or me having my face covering up some of the stuff that you would have liked to seen, there's a million videos each on the Faststone image viewer, which I sometimes call Freestone. It's Faststone, and the Gimp image processor. There's millions of videos out there. So if you're interested in either of those, I highly recommend that you go download them and play around with them. Toss the guys a few bucks for thanking them for all the hard work they did in making such wonderful, free to the public applications. So that's all I have to say. Again, thanks a lot for watching.